Good morning, guys, YouTube people, world, whoever. Welcome back to Half Fast 719. The other day, I got a question. I'm going to be out watering the trees, but anyway, I got a question. Why do I change the oil every 4,000 miles in this Kia Telluride? It is a 2024 Kia Telluride SX all-wheel drive. So, as I'm watering my plants and trees and whatever else, keeping my wind guards watered, I will be discussing it with you guys. So I have this little cheat sheet. You can pause it if you want to see my breakdown. But basically, so I want to change my oil because these Kias have oil consumption issues. And it's recommended in the actual computer system. It says 8,000 miles. If you've seen some of my videos, it resets it. And I believe it's 8,000 miles. I think they changed that because I think the older ones were 10,000 miles. Because I see a lot of people that say, don't change your oil at 10,000 miles. So, anyway, I got asked why I changed it at 4,000 miles. So I got a pretty good reason why I do it at 4 and not like 6,000 or 7,000 miles. If you paused it on that piece of paper, you'll see my math. It is not girl math. It is cheap insurance math. So basically, I do oil change 4,000 miles when the odometer hits every 4,000 miles. So I started at 4,000. I went to 4,000 was my first oil change. It was like 3,800 miles or something. I always try to get it just a little bit before. I think one time I went like 200 miles over, which is fine according to my math. So the way I do the math is I idle the car because I sleep in my car. So I sleep in my car for 8 nights. So I drive out Monday. So Monday night, whether it's cold or hot. If it's hot, sometimes I don't idle my car. Sometimes I'll just hang out with other guys from work and just hang out in their trailers with AC or heat. But majority of the time, I idle my car. Usually like 45 minutes in the morning and maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours at night, depending on how hot it is. Sometimes I would start my car. Now, granted, I do have different stuff in my car now. I have a Blue Eddy power station, and the Blue Eddy charges or powers a heater, or now I'm bringing an AC, but usually I have a fan. I like to sleep when it's colder temperatures. Like I sleep really good when it's gonna be like 30, anywhere between 28 to like 45 degrees. I sleep really good with just a comforter. If it's below that, then I gotta get a sleeping bag out. I kind of double up on my blankets. And I did buy, after I got that Blue Eddy power station, I did buy a heating blanket, and it was like 17 degrees some nights, and I never turned it on. Just for some reason, the warmth of it, just having it over the comforter, was plenty warm for me. But anyway, so sometimes I would idle the car for an hour and a half before bed, warm up the car inside, and then I'd go to sleep. Or sometimes I'd wake up early in the morning if it was really cold, start the car, let the car get warm, and and then it would just be idling. So I figured with cars idling at 1,000 RPMs, so my calculations are way off, but It just makes sense to me because when you're driving a car, let's say you're driving a car and it's like, I think my average at 60 miles an hour is like 1600 RPMs, but you have airflow cooling the car down, cooling the exhaust and everything. When you're idling the car, you don't have any of that cooling going on. So therefore, I would say the oil is being less cooled, and it's harder on the oil idling than driving, because if you're driving the car and you got more RPMs, the oil's slushing around, getting up to the top. Oil pressure's a little bit higher with higher RPMs, whereas lower RPMs, the oil's, circulating slower. So anyway, so with that being said, I take my idling hours, 3 hours a day. So it's hour in the morning, half hour in the morning, and let's say 2 hours, 2.5 hours at night. So I would take that 3 hours and basically I would say, okay, 60 miles an hour, that's like 1,400, 1,500, maybe 1,600 RPMs on my car. So I'm just doing an average of 60 miles an hour for 3 hours. So that's 180 miles a day. Technically, my car is idling. That's, like I said, that's my math. So 180 miles additional a day to the 4,000 miles. So when people say, oh, you change it every 4,000 miles, it's not. I'm adding 180 miles. So 3 hours of idling at 60 miles an hour, it's 180 miles. So 180 miles times 8, because I sleep in my car 8 nights at a time. And then I sleep in my car another 8 nights. So roughly every month I'm changing the oil. So 180 times 16. So if you do 180 times 8, that's 1,440. 1,440 miles for 8 nights of just idling. And then you times that by 2, it's 2,880 miles. So that's what I'm calculating my mileage of idling. So, so the sheet that I got, let me put this down. I'll go over it. Just throw this down real quick. So 4,000 mile oil change, idling car for 3 hours. I'm averaging it at 60 miles an hour for 3 hours is my math. That's 180 miles times 8 nights. So 180 times 8 is 1,440. And then for the month, because that's what I'm averaging, the oil change is one oil change a month, is 2,880 miles additional on top of the 4,000. So technically, in my mind, I'm changing the oil at 6,880 miles. So when you ask, what's my reasoning for changing the oil every 4,000 miles? I do a lot of idling. So if you do a lot of stop and go traffic, a lot of stop and go, if you're sitting on the freeway and just idling there behind other cars with all that heat, just remember your hours on your car is mileage. So when you have a fleet vehicle, like a big truck or a big rig, and you have a fleet account, they will ask you your mileage and they will ask you your hours. So sometimes they'll go off of hours, sometimes they'll go off of mileage. Because like where we work, we do a lot of idling, a lot of PTO. It's a hydraulic system. We do a lot of that for hours, like 3 to 5 hours a day. We might go 5 miles in one day and have 8 hours of idling. And when the PTO's on, The RPMs are up high. Like on a diesel truck, I think they're at like 12 to 1500 RPMs. So that's why a lot of companies will go off of hours. They'll say how many hours are on the vehicle, and then you tell them how many hours are on the vehicle, how many miles are on it, and then they go off of both. So that's what I'm basing my 4,000 mile oil change on, is idling. So if you're sitting in a lot of traffic, sitting on the highway, sitting on the freeway, and you're changing your oil at, let's just say you're changing it at 8,000 miles. Your idling hours, you could be sitting in traffic for an hour and a half, and you might go 10 miles. So I've seen it. I've been everywhere. Some traffic from state line. One night I went 10 miles and it took an hour and a half. So, yeah, so that's something you got to consider too. And you'll burn a lot more oil on idling in your car. So if you have oil consumption, now this isn't science. I didn't prove any of this. This is just years and years and hundreds of thousands of miles, probably even millions. I've probably driven 4 or 5 million miles over my lifetime. My old job, I used to do 250,000 miles a year on a truck, a pickup truck. I was a technician for a window manufacturer, and yeah, I would get a new truck every year. Every year they'd buy me a new truck, and they would hand my truck to a local technician, because I would drive from Denver all the way to Texas, New Mexico, sometimes twice a week. But anyway, all right, I'm done watering. So, and that was all highway miles. Now, granted, highway miles is way different than idling miles or idling hours. I had a little Honda Civic that when I moved back to California, I used to have to drive 72 miles, 144 miles every day on that little car. It was a little 92 Honda Civic hatchback. And I sold it with like 470 or 500 and something thousand miles on it. And I bought it used from a guy, and it had 90,000 miles on it. And that was all highway miles. And that car, I would change the oil every 5,000 miles. This car, yeah, I was driving this car a lot, and I was changing this oil every 5,000 miles. That truck's just basically sits here, so I'd probably change it once a year, once every 2 years. So your situation is going to depend. If you're sitting in a lot of traffic, I would change your oil earlier. If you're doing a lot of idling, change that oil sooner. So anyway, that's what we got. I got no science to prove it. I got nothing to back it. That's just my years and years of driving, thousands of miles. My oil, I have no oil consumption. I do have a catch can on the Kia, so that it'll catch all the contaminants or bad vapors, basically. Yeah, so it doesn't go back into the system and soak on top of the valves, and so you don't get the caramelization on top of the valves. But anyway, that's a whole different video, whole different story. So yeah, I would recommend, like I said, if you're doing only highway, no traffic, sure, car, I would change it 7,000 miles. I will not go to 8,000. 7,000 miles would be fine. Highway traffic, 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. But you got to keep in mind idling hours. So that's why I change my oil at 4,000 miles. Because, like I told the guy who asked the question, I said, it's cheaper to change oil now. Granted, every other oil change cost me, let's see, probably like $45 doing it myself. It's like probably like maybe $80 if you take it to a shop. So if you consider 80 times 12, which is a lot. What is that? I don't even know. I don't know what 80 times 12 is, but it's a lot. So that would be $80 times 12 months because I change oil every 12 months. And that's actually every 6 months. We'll cut it in half. 80 divided by 6 because I'm doing the mileage in half. So 8 times 6 is 42. So $420 a year is what I could save if I went to 8,000 miles. Which is not right because that $420 is what you could save if you go take it to a dealership. So it cost me 40 something bucks times 6, 424, $240. So that's how much I could save, but I choose not to. Because the $240 a year is a lot cheaper than when this thing goes out of its warranty and I have to replace this engine at, let's just say I get a used engine. Let's just say it's $3,000. So $3,000 all at once, or $200 a year, $240. I'd rather spend $240 a year than $3,000, if not more. So, and if you can't change the oil and stuff or engine by yourself, you're looking at $10,000, $13,000. So just do yourself a favor. Change the oil sooner. It's cheap insurance. Cheaper insurance. So I'm going to hit 100,000 miles quick and easy on this thing. I'm already at 24,000 miles. And I've had it since September. I'm not even a year yet. And I've done 24,000 miles. So moral of the story is, if you're idling a lot, change your oil sooner. If you're driving a lot, change it a little sooner. If you're going off of manufacturer, you're going to be replacing an engine. So, anyway, like I changed the wife's car. It's 7,500 miles. I changed it at 4,000 miles. And her car her car sees 2,000 miles a year maximum, and maybe a little more. Anyway, guys, and then I change the oil every weekend in this car with this cord. Whoop. Oil change comes from the solar panels. Anyway, guys, it's getting warm. Moral story is just change your oil. It's cheaper. Oil filters, if you change your oil by yourself, just buy bulk from Kia dealership. You can get it for like $4 or $6 for factory Kia oil filter. Just go to like KiaParts.com or something and find a dealer and just order like 6 of them. It'll cost you $60. Whereas you go to Walmart or VatoZone or Whitey's, they're like, up to $10-15 an oil filter. And most of them are not even that good. They will fall apart inside there. They will collapse. They will crush. Just go with the factory oil filter. And use whatever oil you think. I use Mobil 1 because Royal Purple, trash. Royal Purple, that stuff evaporates. Like I had a TL and that oil would evaporate. I think it would evaporate. The car, I was thinking it was burning oil. So I ran Royal Purple in my wife's car, and I ran Royal Purple in my 04 TL that I had. And her car wouldn't burn as much because she wouldn't drive as much, but my car was like a quart and a half every oil change. And I switched over to Mobil 1. Didn't consume, didn't burn, didn't evaporate any oil. Her car, Mobil 1, her car leaks oil. I don't know where it's leaking from, but it's leaking. I think it's leaking from the drain plug. I think. But I've changed washers. I've done all kinds of junk on her car and still just leaks. Could be crank sensor, cam sensor, or cam seal or crank seal. Could be one of those. But I've did the timing chain or timing belt. And yeah, I changed all the seals on her car at like maybe 30,000 miles ago. But regardless, just watch your oil. If you're using like Castrol oil and you start burning oil, let's say burning oil, switch your oil. Now, don't switch from conventional oil to synthetic blend to synthetic. They recommend synthetic. Use synthetic, but switch it from Castrol to Valvoline. And then from Valvoline to, if you're burning oil or losing oil from Valvoline, switch to Mobil 1. I haven't burned any oil using Mobil 1. I use Mobil 1 in that, use Mobil 1 in that. I use Mobil 1 in the Audi. I was using liquid moly in the Audi, and I was burning oil. And I was using something else in the Audi, and I was burning oil. And I switched over to Mobil 1. Actually, this Mobil 1 right here for the Audi. And I'm burning more oil with the container just sitting here than the car burned, because it's a brand new, I think from AutoZone. I was getting these at AutoZone, but brand new, and yeah, it's losing oil out of the container. The wife's car, I just did the oil change, and I did switch over to this Valvoline Restore and Protect. So I'm trying that on her car because the car's got a lot of mileage. This is what I use on the Kia. I do have a couple, 3 Fram oil filters for the Kia as emergencies, just in case I forget to order these. But I have 2 more of these, so I'll be good for 2, maybe 3 months. And I get these direct from Kia. So that's what I do. I stock up on oil filters. I just actually used the last oil filter for the wife's car. I bought a kit of 9 of them. Got Mopar filters for the trucks. Oil filters for the Kia or the Audi. I always have oil filters, man, because I even got extra oil filters for the skid steer, and it doesn't even run. But anyway, I'm just saying, you guys can save a lot of money by doing stuff the right way, changing the oil way before recommended. 8,000 miles, I would go 6,000 if you're just driving highway, tops. And then the dealership is going to tell you, oh no, you still got 2,000 more miles. Just tell them, just change it. I don't care. 6,000, change it, because the dealership is in for making money. And if they get you for 8,000 miles and you hit that 100, 110,000, 112,000 mile mark, guess what you're doing? You're buying an engine because you're out of warranty. Because they know this thing will last. It'll probably last with no oil for the 100,000 miles. But then once it hits 101, you're spending the money at the dealership. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. See you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, do what you do. Later.